Hey friends, what about the positive thinking? You know, how much of you are work on the basis of positive thought process? See, when I felt encountered the art of positive thinking, I expected something light and almost, it is ornamental, a book that would tell me to stay update and move on. But as I read, I realized, this was not about post optimism or pretending life is easier than it is. It was your training mind to respond directly to the reality, not denying pain, struggle, or disappointment, but choosing not to let them dominate the inner narrative. The book felt less like advice and more like a quiet re-education of thoughts, and one that asks you to become conscious of what you allow to live rent free in your mind. And friends, thoughts are habits, not truth. So the writer of the book, Brown, emphasizes that most of what we think is not objective reality, but habitual interpretation. And friends, a negative thinking persists not because it is accurate, but because it's familiar. So once we saw this, it becomes harder to treat every anxious or critical thought as a fact. So the lesson here is simple but radical. You don't have to believe everything you think. So awareness is the first interruptions of the mental autopilot. So number two, friends, positive thinking is a discipline, not a mood. So the book, dismantles the myth that the positive thinking, that positivity is something you either feel or you do not. Brown frames positive thinking as a practice and something you return to deliberately, especially when it feels unnatural. Waiting to feel hopeful before thinking positively is backward. The discipline of positive thinking, the discipline of positive thought often comes before the emotional shift, not after it. So, what you dwell on quietly shapes your future. So Brown repeatedly returns to the idea that attention is creative. The mind tends to move life in the direction of its most frequent focus. This doesn't mean thoughts magically erase hardships, but they do shape decisions, energy level, and the resilience. So over time, what we rehearse internally becomes the lens through which opportunities and obstacles are filtered. Then inner dialogue determines emotional climate. So one of the book's most practical insights is the power of self-talk. So Brown shows how subtle inner language words like always, never, I can't, it is too late, that creates an emotional environment of defeat. So challenging your inner dialogue is not about lying to yourself, but about choosing language that leaves room for growth rather than selling the door shut. See, gratitude reorients, reorients perception, not the circumstances. Rather than presenting gratitude as a polite exercise, Brown treats it as a perpetual receipt. So gratitude, does not deny what is wrong. It prevents what wrong from becoming everything. So I found this lesson especially, grounding gratitude does not make life easier, but it makes life wider, more nuanced, more balanced, and less consumed by luck. So optimism strengthens endurance. So Brown argues that the positive thinking does not remove difficulty. The positive thinking does not remove difficulty. So it increases stamina, and people who believe improvement is possible are more likely to persist adapt, and recover. So optimism here is not the blind faith, it is the belief that effort matters. The belief alone often determines whether someone gives up, too early or stay long enough to see change. The mind must be gently redirected, not bullied. So one of the quiet strength, of this book is its tone. So bound once against harsh self-correction. Fighting negative thoughts aggressively often strengthens them. So instead, she encourages gently redirection, acknowledging the thought, then choosing a better one. To change the suggest change, she suggests happens faster through patience and punishment. So, what is the final reflection of the book? The art of positive thinking does not promise a flawless life or uninterrupted happiness. So, what it offers is as far more realistic and far more powerful. The ability to shape your inner world so that life's weights feels more variable, its possibilities are visible, and the book reminded that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can learn to choose the tone of the voice we meet it with, and over time, that voice becomes the place we lead from. So, friends, you know, this is a very good book. If you find an opportunity, you can purchase and read this. And if you find this, seven takeaways are useful to you, may you utilize or share it in other groups so that your friends will be definitely benefited by this. So thank you so much. We will meet with another good video and sometime next time.